Hey everybody, welcome to our downtown studios. I'm your host, John Ramdeen, and this is Fight News Now Extra. Robin Black will join me in a bit to chat about the day's events. In the news today, the UFC responds to claims made by a former champion. The Bellator president talks about an AKA lightweight, and a former Strikeforce champion is left without an opponent. Former UFC light heavyweight champion and pound-for-pound great Jon Jones spoke out about Vitor Belfort's testosterone levels ahead of their tilt at UFC 152 in Toronto in September of 2013. The Jackson Winklejohn fighter said the UFC was aware of the situation and decided to do nothing. UFC President Dana White was on TSN's Off the Record, where he denied the company had any knowledge going into the bout. White also stated that Jones shouldn't be talking about what other people are doing. Many expect the light heavyweight great could make his return to the cage sometime in 2016. Bellator President Scott Coker spoke to our own John Pollock about former Strikeforce champion Josh Thompson ahead of his Bellator main event bout on Friday night.
I mean, we love Josh. He's a guy that we spent, many years here fighting in San Jose, and he was kind of like the homegrown kid that, did really well. And he had those epic battles with Gilbert Melendez in that trilogy. Josh is a kid that on any given night could beat anybody. So, this is something that will be another test to see what he's got left in the gas tank. But believe me, anytime he fights, it's going to be exciting because I've never seen that kid in a boring fight.
Former Strikeforce female 135-pound champion Sarah Kaufman is left without an opponent for her upcoming Fox 17 bout. The Canadian was set to meet Dutch fighter Jermaine Durandamy on December 19th at the Amway Center in Orlando, Florida. The Adam Zuchek-trained Kaufman is looking to rebound from a loss to Alexis Davis. The Fox 17 card will feature the lightweight championship between Donald Cerrone and Brazilian Rafael dos Anjos. And we are getting you set for those 3 shows starting on December 10th, ending on December 12th with UFC 194, 3 preview shows, as well as the post-fight press conference for UFC 194, Conor McGregor taking on Jose Aldo for the undisputed featherweight championship of the world. Joined by Robin Black, a whole bunch of mixed martial arts action happening over the next number of weeks. Of course, 3 back-to-back shows. Then Donald Cerrone taking on Rafael dos Anjos. Sarah Kaufman left without an opponent. But right now, if you're an MMA fan, it is literally the best time of the year.
I just wet my pants. I'm seriously, I'm just starting to freak out. I'm really starting to freak out. I'm going to just have to pull it back together and focus because we're going to Vegas on Monday. And then we've got 4 press conferences maybe, 3 weigh-ins, and 35 fights. It's going to be so awesome, man. There's going to be so much brilliant martial arts happening, but also just amazing things to learn and absorb and be immersed in fighting, and we'll bring back everything that we learned.
Must be a very hectic time for UFC President Dana White, getting all these shows together, wondering, is Jose Aldo going to pull out of this main event? He's got to focus on Uriah Faber. I want the shot of Jose Aldo's out, but I promised it to Frankie Edgar. And then Jon Jones comes in and says, you know what? Those guys at the UFC knew that Vitor Belfort was saucing before our fight in Toronto. Dana White, on Off the Record, says, no, we had no knowledge. Must be a stressful time if you're the press.
I work with the UFC a little bit now doing breakdowns. I got one coming out this weekend on Aldo versus McGregor. And so I do deal directly with the UFC now. And it's shocking how the workflow works. It's shocking, and it's true. Dana does approve every single thing. He sees the whole picture. There's not little departments doing stuff. That one man is literally making sure that everything goes the way it needs to go. And it's really amazing to watch. It really is. It's almost inhuman for somebody to be spinning that many plates simultaneously like one of those acrobats. It's wild to see.
When you look at Jon Jones, of course, there's talk of him coming back in 2016. He has been one of the fighters that has been very vocal kind of against the UFC. If things are not in his favor, he's more than happy to pull out of a fight. This whole court situation, the whole DUI deal with him bailing after hitting this pregnant woman. Should the UFC be supporting this guy when he comes out and says these things? Because Dana White said, look, man, you shouldn't be pointing fingers saying that Vitor Belfort was on stuff when you have your own issues to deal with. Is this the type of relationship we can expect from these 2 guys moving forward?
I think probably. I mean, not everybody likes each other. It's weird where we work. Everybody's pretty cool. Can you think of anybody that you don't get along with? But that's not true. Think of where you work. Anybody at home. Is there somebody at work that works a little different? Is there that one guy that's gets a little crazy. You get work environments of hundreds of people together. Somebody's not going to get along, so that's normal. One thing you got to figure is into 2 decades of working in this field, these people have understood that all press seems to be good press, especially today. It's 2015. If John Jones says something bad, that's probably good. People are still paying attention to the UFC. There's guys sitting at a desk somewhere in Canada talking about it. All of these things, ultimately, you might take it personally if you're Dana, or you might take it personally if you're GSP, or all these kinds of things. But I think in the end, it ends up still bringing attention to their company, which is what they're after.
Well, I love that you brought up both of those names because, I think there's the fan base out there believe that there are only a select amount of stars that the UFC has right now on their current roster. We've seen a guy like Daniel Cormier should be a huge star. Robbie Lawler should be a huge star, but they are still the hardcore fans. Those are the people that tune into those fights. The fighters like Conor McGregor and Ronda Rousey and probably now Holly Holm, they garner a little bit different attention. A fighter like George St. Pierre, who talked about the UFC coming up in his opinion about Dana White, why wouldn't Dana White try to smooth things over when you know that you have one of the biggest stars that you've ever had in George St. Pierre, as well as John Jones? Why not try to repair those relationships?
I think the Jones one that's just people. With George, you look at it, and don't you I think we all kind of do feel that George probably isn't coming back. Hey man, Dana's a smart dude. Like, he may literally be going, this guy's never coming back, knowing that actually might motivate him to come back. You know what I mean? It'd be really cool to see George back, but this one's going to be up to George. If George is in there and not just enjoying training, because he's going to go down train with Freddie Roach, he's training with Faraz every day, not just enjoy being in there and doing the work, because you can do that for the rest of your life, and he will do that for the rest of his life, be a martial artist. But he's got to enjoy when he gets in there and he's sparring, and that competitive fire that I can't let this guy take an inch on me on the ground, I can't let that guy get away with one punch on me. He's got to have that fire. I don't know if he's going to have that.
Of those two, George St. Pierre and John Jones, upon their return, if they decide to get back inside of the octagon, we expect John Jones will get back into the cage in 2016. Who do you think will make the most improvements, or who have made the most improvements?
Jones is still getting better, man. And I know Cormier's trying to get into his mind. Everyone's seeing the value of playing mental games. Talking about Jones maybe messing with the recipe, getting big. But listen, I've done some research into how he's weightlifting and what the plan, the periodization, and the movement is. This guy's just going to be bigger, stronger, and faster.
Let's just hope John Jones has got his act all together, decides to come back fighting at 205 pounds, and then moves up to the heavyweight limit. Him versus Cain Velasquez or Fabrizio Verdum. Come on, give me a break. That is it for us. Don't change the channel. More FNNE is coming your way.